Alright, what is up, ladies and gentlemen, to this impromptu episode of Intelligence Chek. I realized we didn't have an episode on Friday. One, because I was not feeling up to it, and Conrad was busy with something else, so we didn't want to squeeze it in and do last minute stuff. But at the same time, so for information today, Conrad will not be joining us. He is currently in the middle of a sim racing session. But of course, my name is Paul. Welcome, or Grim, whichever you prefer. And today, I have a returning guest, one of our favorite guests, our only guest, to be honest. DM Steve. What's up, dude?
Hello.
So, Steve, like, you made this when?
Let me see, actually. I made this on the 31st of March, so like 2 or 3 weeks ago, or a little less than 2 weeks ago.
Okay. So, Steve, Steve, as you guys know, Steve is my DM in a game of Farland, which I stream every Saturday. So this guy has got a ludicrous amount of knowledge about D&D. And he decided to make a class, which he has aptly named the Bulwark. And he shared it with all of us, at least in our Farland game, asking for feedback and stuff like that. And some of us loved the damn thing. Okay, so Steve, what was your ideation for this class?
So the original concept for it was actually more or less 2 ideas, which is the first one, in older editions of D&D, specifically 3rd edition and 4th edition, there was a class called Marshal, and then it got changed over to Warlord, which is basically the sort of the military commander or military tactician type of role that is fulfilled in combat. Basically, you're buffing allies not through spells or magic of any kind. It's just you command your ally to attack or move or something similar to that. I always like that concept just because I have more of a tactical mind for D&D, especially. It's one of the things I really enjoy about the game. And then
which is quite indicative of stuff like XCOM and all that kind of stuff like that.
Exactly, yeah. I took a lot of ideas from XCOM and similar style of tactics games. And then the other side of it is, in D&D there are 2 D6 based hit die classes in Wizard and Sorcerer, but there's only 1 D12, which is the Barbarian, which for my OCD I needed to have another D12 class.
Fair.
So, and I've also noticed the issue with Barbarian is it can be a very good tank class, but it is not designed to be one. Most of the base level abilities of Barbarian are more offensive, rage, reckless attack, so forth.
Right, so basically, the Bulwark is essentially acting as a pure tank?
Yes, the main abilities of the class are all defensive in nature, so extra hit points, extra AC, ways to just reduce damage to yourself and allies mostly, right, as well as some abilities that are more focused on, again, that just battlefield presence of, you get extra attacks or you buff your allies or debuff enemies just by being there, essentially.
Yeah. Okay, so for those of you unaware, in most fantasy games, or actually even any game that, for that matter, that involves team play, there's always a breakdown in terms of roles for different players. So one will be the tank, one is the DPS, one is the support, the healer, or just absolute crowd control skills.
Exactly,
and the tank is usually what gives you, they soak the damage and are able to protect everyone behind them. Exactly. Now, the fighter, the paladin, and the barbarian, they're, like Steve mentioned before, because those are your premier frontliners. But they're extremely offense-based. All their skills are used offensively. Not much in terms of, maybe the Battle Master fighter has a couple of maneuvers which can help allies, but not to the point where the Bulwark can do. So,
exactly.
I read through this, I shared it with Conrad, and he was like, this might be a little broken. Now, keep in mind, guys, this has not been play tested. This is Steve's 3rd draft of it. But I wanted to talk to him about it because it's a fascinating and a very new way of playing the game, honestly. Because up until now, for example, in my game of Storm King's Thunder, we have a Hexblade Paladin. He wants to be the tank. He's got a 22 AC, You know, he's picked all. Like he's got the defensive fighting style. He's got 22 AC. He's just doing as much as he can to avoid anybody getting to the backline. But everything just walks past him because they can't hit him.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the biggest hurdle, and part of this is due to bounded accuracy, which is what 5th edition uses versus older editions. It basically makes the game a lot more swingy in that regard, but it does simplify things, which is why 5th edition is good. And part of the reason I'm still playtesting out is because the idea of a full frontline tank did exist in older editions, but with 5th edition they've avoided it because it can just shut entire combats down. You know, in favor of the players, which personally I don't care as much about. I have enough of a tactical mind, or good enough one, that I can usually play around that a bit. But it's still something you want to make sure isn't broken out the gate.
Right, but like for example, like again, coming back to the Hexblade Paladin in my game, no one can hit him, right? But he has no points in strength, so just grapple him.
Exactly,
I literally had a Manticore grapple him and rip him off an airship, and immediately he's now developed a fear of heights.
That makes sense.
So you know, it's stuff like that which makes it interesting. So when the guy thinks he's unstoppable, but then you just go, he just grapples you, make a strength check. Oh, what's your modifier? +2? He's got a +5. Okay, let's go.
Exactly, yeah. It's very easy to play around any sort of at least the current defensive builds. You know, obviously like a Totem Barbarian as well is someone who is very much trying to just be a damage soak or damage sponge.
Yeah, but then what we realized is he can't. What's one looking for? He can't make things want to attack him.
Exactly, yeah. There isn't outside of Totem Barbarian, and it's one of their later game features, there isn't really a taunt mechanic in D&D 5th edition. Or a mechanic that forces enemies to attack you. The closest thing to that is basically they have disadvantage on anyone but you. Which is kind of what I built off of Bulwark as well. One of their main features is taunt.
Okay, so speaking of which, let's jump into the actual stats that you've made for this character.
We'll start off with kind of the basics here.
Sure.
So like I said, it's a D12 hit die, because for this class especially, you would need as many hit points as possible.
100%.
And a lot of the abilities also work off Constitution, which is dangerous to do from a multi-classing standpoint, because if you can put all your points in just Constitution and be effective in combat, it's potentially going to shut a lot of stuff down. But I think it's kind of necessary still for this.
100%, because okay, so for those of you who are the uninitiated, Constitution dictates your HP, how much hit points you have. So the higher your Constitution, the better. And also, like Steve mentioned, this is a D12 hit dice. The only other class that gets a D12 is the Barbarian. So while you have a higher top end, but your low end can also be quite bad as well. That's always the risk of having a higher hit dice. But at the same time, having a good HP and having stuff built off, like, there aren't many there are no classes that use con for their save modifiers, actually, right?
Correct, yeah.
Exactly.
It was considered for the sorcerer, but obviously was not. Ultimately, they got rid of that because it would be too powerful.
Yeah. Especially for a sorcerer.
Yeah. You just put all your points in Constitution and then never worry about anything.
Yeah.
As well
sorry, go on.
I would say, as well to that, as far as the proficiencies, it has light, medium, and heavy armor, as well as shields, because I think that is, obviously heavy armor is kind of necessary for a lot of these builds, and
100%.
Unlike the Barbarian, you don't have an unarmored movement with it, or an unarmored defense with this.
Mm-hmm.
I've considered including that, but it would, I think, pigeonhole the class a little too much.
Yeah.
So the heavy armor proficiency is just a better way to go about it.
Mm-hmm.
I also included martial weapons because it's a lot of the archetypes that I think people would want to build with this are going to be more focused not only on soaking up damage, but also just in general controlling the battlefield with certain weapons. Obviously, Sentinel, Polearm Master in a tanky role is great because you can just stop an enemy altogether as a reaction. And with this class especially, you have a lot of reactions as well, so it lets you just keep control of the battlefield at all times, which I think helps a lot.
Yeah, 100%. Just yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. So battlefield control, I believe, is one of the most powerful abilities in the game.
Absolutely.
Like displacement is super powerful, and if you can just control the battle. So, say for example, like this is why I keep saying fear is an extremely powerful crowd control.
Yes.
Yeah. So for those,
if you can use it correctly.
Yeah, like for those of you unaware, if something's scared of you, they cannot approach you. Which means if your allies are behind you, and you're up front, and the target in front of you is scared of you, they cannot go past you. They cannot close the distance. So fear is extremely powerful and it's a very, very good ability. Like the Oath of Conquest Paladin uses it very well.
Yeah, since that provides just a general aura as well, which obviously that would be a great multi-class. With this is just you get right in the fray of everything and immediately shut down everyone and force them to either attack you or run away.
Exactly, yeah. So it's pretty neat. It's pretty cool. So yeah, so your preferences, you get that. Equipment, martial weapon, 2 melee weapons. Because it's very standard to the fighter subclass. Sorry, not subclass,
yeah,
the fighter
fighter
class.
Barbarian.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good baseline for just stuff to start with as far as gold cost more than anything else. So I just kind of copy pasted that from Barbarian, and I changed it from 4 javelins to a net, partially as a joke, and
but no, it makes
partially
sense.
because I don't think javelins would be super useful for you.
Yeah, and plus the net is always good. You just chuck it on somebody and you trap them to restrain them. It's always useful.
Exactly. I want to encourage more also of just lateral thinking instead of I attack this thing, is I throw a net on it to slow him down and then do something else to help the rest of the group that I'm with.
Yeah.
And strength and constitution saving throws, obviously, I think is kind of necessary for it as well.
100%.
I took 3 skills because I did want, from a role place perspective, I wanted the person doing it to have enough of a character. It's similar in fighter in that way that I want it to kind of be a blank slate that you can kind of build any character with it, and having an extra skill for that just lets you kind of pick and choose that a little more.
No, fair enough.
Let's see. As far as the actual abilities of the class, the first one is, as I mentioned, Taunt. So what that lets you do at first level, you have a natural ability to draw attention to yourself, and as a bonus action, you can target a creature within 30 feet of you. I should clarify that should be that you can see. I'll probably add that in just for mechanical purposes.
Actually, would it matter though? Because if you're just talking, actually, technically, you can't target something, so fair enough. Yeah, you have to see it. Yeah.
Yeah, just again, it would be a little overpowered if you have no vision on a thing and you somehow make it come to you. That again, still workshopping in most of this. So
yeah, I mean, like one of the ideas that I told Steve was maybe it could be a like. Okay, so so let's talk about resolve before coming back to taunt, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So the resolve feature is kind of the bread and butter, which I put at level 2, just so people can't take a 1 level dip in it and get a bunch of extra value out of it.
Of course.
But the way that works is similar to, it kind of combines the effects of something like Key from the Monk and the Battlemaster maneuvers.
Yeah.
So essentially what you get is each level that you have in the Bulwark class, you get resolve points, and those points can be expended on certain abilities. And like the Battlemaster or Key, you have a DC associated with it as well that goes off your Constitution modifier, since that makes the most logical sense for it.
Yeah.
And with that, you get 3 specific abilities out the gate, and then you get ones later on as you level up.
Yeah. So the key. So the result. Okay. So resolve points, and they also have resolve die as well, right?
Yes. The other part of it is you have a resolve die, again, similar kind of like to the martial arts die or the Battlemaster maneuver die. It scales with your level. So since you get at level 2, you get, it starts as a D6, and then it works its way up to a D12 at later levels. Goes up to d12 at 17th, so you have to kind of fully investigate that level of it. But
Right.
essentially,
So
that acts.
yeah, no, sorry. The reason why I want to talk about that, the resolve die situation, is because for taunt, say for example. So one of the suggestions I had for Steve was, again, it's, remember guys, play testing. We don't know how powerful this might be, but one of my ideas was you roll a resolve die, whatever that number is, you get to taunt that many creatures. That was one of the things I was thinking.
Well, I have that as one of these because each subclass gets basically a modified version of their taunt.
Oh, okay, fair
And
enough. Okay. Cool. All right, cool. So that's taunt. Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah. Otherwise, it is kind of, if you were able to, say, taunt an entire battlefield, that can be pretty powerful. And also a situation where if you are in a bad situation, you can end up screwing yourself a bit because you just take too much damage all at once.
Right.
Exactly.
Fair. No, okay, fair enough. I was just thinking that would be interesting, but then you do make a point. It's like how many hit points are you willing to sacrifice just to taunt the entire battlefield on your face?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
and to clarify, as far as what the ability itself is, as far as taunt, it's a bonus action, and any creature within 30 feet that you can see, that creature has disadvantage on attacks against anyone besides you until the end of your next turn. Mm-hmm. So it'll essentially be on you for their entire turn. So you guarantee pretty much one creature is most likely going to attack you because it would be a disadvantage for them to do it against anyone else.
I mean, I think if another balancing act is proficiency bonus, maybe.
That's what the Warden gets. They get the ability to taunt creatures up to their proficiency bonus, so they have a max of 6 and a minimum of 2.
Okay, yeah, okay, cool. Then so if the Tactician has it, then we're good. Okay, cool. Yeah. So that's taunt. Then we have staying power. Now this is nuts, because if you make a Hill Dwarf Bulwark.
Yes.
Holy
Hill Dwarf
shit.
Bulwark with the tough feat, you've essentially got 4 extra hit points every time you level up.
That's nuts.
On top of that, you can take Dwarven Fortitude. On top of that, you can take a few other things. You do get an extra ability score improvement with this class.
Yeah.
So, which again is for the versatility. I want people to have that option of building this how they want, similar to like a fighter or a rogue.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, you can just you become a sponge. It's like hit me, hit me.
Yeah, it is very much designed as a class for the people who want to take damage and make sure no one else is.
Yeah. Oh, again, fantastic. So that's staying power, which is great.
Yes.
Like,
and I gave that one.
This is the only class I think. The only class that I think that could probably no. It's the only class that can out HP a barbarian. I guess is the word I'm looking for.
I mean, if you're really unlucky with your rolls, but if you take averages, then yeah, it's always going to beat out barbarian.
Yeah, but we always make people roll, right?
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, because
anyone can run their game how they want to, and with this one, I also put it as a first level ability because it scales with your level. So I originally had it actually, I think it's 7th level, and then I realized it's not super useful. At that point, so having it early levels and scaling with you is a lot better.
Much better, yeah. So you're just a meat shield, which is great.
Yeah.
All right. So coming back to resolve. Sorry. Anything you want to talk about there, or?
No, I was gonna say in regards to resolve. The 3 base abilities that you get from it, or that you start out with from resolve, is first one is Bolster, which as a bonus action you can roll one of your resolve die, and you gain temporary hit points equal to the roll of the defense die plus your Constitution modifier. So it's a d6. So on average, you're going to have 3 plus your con, which usually 2nd level you're looking around 3 to 4 bonus. So it's about 7 extra hit points.
Really lucky on your stat rolls.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I mean, it also depends on
action. So
yeah, it also depends on what your DM allows. Like, does he do point buy? Does he do standard array? Does he roll for his for his stats? It's up to the DM to decide what happens. So sometimes you might get lucky. You might get a 20 con right out the gate if you roll for it.
Oh yeah, well, because you'll start out with 12 plus your con mod. So assuming you get lucky and get 4, we'll say, that's 16 health right off the bat, and then as a bonus action, you can on average gain an additional 7 in temporary hit points.
Yeah,
which that's over twice of what most people are going to have. So
Yeah, that's
you're
solid.
doing pretty well there.
Yeah, that's solid.
And it's just cost the 1 resolve die, which at that level you only have 2, but the
Mhm.
other abilities actually work with this. The next one you have is Helpful Word. It's when you give an ally the help action, you can spend a resolve die, add the number rolled to either their attack roll or skill check, and if that hits or the skill check succeeds, you regain that use of that resolve die.
So
So
it's
you don't actually have to expend it.
kind of like what do you call it? Bardic inspiration almost. Like the new is it eloquence?
Yes, I think so. There's a few classes that actually have that as an effect.
Yeah.
The Soul Knife Rogue has psi points,
Right,
and you can
exactly.
regain
Yeah.
those as well if you fail.
Yeah.
Which it's an interesting situation of whether or not you want to have it be come back on a failure or success. And I have a few mechanics where it does both in
Mm-hmm.
this, just
Okay.
because certain abilities for balance purposes, it's better that way, and also
Yeah.
flavor.
Of course.
Um, and it's also just like I said, it's similar to Key for monks, and one of the major complaints people have with monk is that you run out of Key too fast.
Yeah.
Um, which you do also regain all your resolve points on a shorter long rest.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have to take an hour, and you get all of them back anyways.
Yeah.
Um, so it's not too big of an ask, and ultimately it is just a part of your character. There's no magic attached to it unless you want that to be part of the flavor of it.
Actually,
So
yeah. I mean, that's the like if again, say this class becomes official. Talk to your DM to rework some mechanics if you want.
no,
No.
that should always be the general case. As you, any DM player relationship should always have that open communication of, hey, this doesn't work for me, or hey, I think this could be better. And if you have a decent DM, they should usually be able to look at it and go like, okay, I can change this, or at least give you some reason why they can't change it.
Right. Yeah. At least no DM be like fuck no rules as written. It's like no, let's work this out.
Yeah,
I want
ultimately,
you to have fun.
exactly. As long as everyone is having fun, that's ultimately the major goal. And there is, like I said, a kind of a niche for people who just want to take damage, and this is the class for it, I think.
Oh yeah, I would happily play this, dude. Are you kidding me?
Uh, Speaking of which, the third ability you get right out the gate is Hardy Frame. So whenever you take damage, as a reaction, you can expend a number of the resolve die up to your maximum, which at the level you get is just 2, and you can reduce damage by a number equal to the amount rolled. If you reduce it to 0 from the damage you take, you regain half of the resolve die spent, and it's rounded down with a minimum of 1. So say, as a reaction, you use Hardy Frame every round, and you just use 1, and you succeed on reducing the damage, you don't actually expend the die.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean,
So you can...
it's like it gives you a reason to use your features,
Exactly.
which
And I
which
wanted
a
to
lot of
focus
other
on...
like for example the battle master. Most people like I'm just gonna roll this just for the extra damage,
Exactly.
but you lose it. But in this case, you're like I'm going to be using this because I want to, I don't want to die, or rather, I want to tank this damage. So it gives you a reason to constantly use it.
Also, using reactions, I think, is especially good for this class because it is the class of somebody who is wanting to pay attention throughout the entire battle. It's pretty
Yeah.
common for people, especially if you're a DPS build,
Mhm.
to basically just wait your turn, action, bonus action, do my damage, and then I go right back to looking at my phone.
Yeah.
Like that's a pretty common thing for people. So this is one that's designed more for people who want to pay attention, want to make sure they're involved in the combat at all times, and are actively doing something.
Okay, I think this one is the one class which requires you to keep close attention on the battlefield because you want to see what's
Exactly.
happening. You want to see how it evolves, how it's changing. You're always keeping an eye
Yeah.
out, which I think people should be doing generally. Because like I remember it happens a lot of times where we're in the middle of combat and the spellcaster on their turn they're like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, you had a whole fucking turn, man.
Exactly, yeah. It's a pet peeve of mine as a DM, because you're constantly paying attention, and then you realize one of your players has just been doing something else this entire time, and like, okay, what's happened?
Yeah. I mean, I
So the
remember what like again we're in the middle of a fight, and one of the characters moved in between two enemies, and this guy didn't pay attention. So come his turn, he just like, oh, I see two enemies there, fireball. I'm like, okay, cool. Your ally, please roll dexterity saving throw. They're like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, he's standing in the middle of both of them. But I didn't. I'm like, you didn't pay attention, so you're fireballing your ally. Sorry, and there you go.
Yeah.
I'm like, get fucked, man. If you're not paying attention, get wrecked. Simple as that. Focus in a fight.
It either ends up in that situation, or you end up in the situation where the DM is having to retcon a bunch of stuff because the player didn't realize, and then their turn takes 3 times as long as it really needed to.
Oh yeah,
slows the whole process down. So,
especially if it's a large scale combat as well. It's even worse.
Exactly, yeah. So again, this is the class for the people who are more tactically minded in that regard, especially. Speaking of which, the next ability they get at 3rd level is pretty much perfect for that. So Call to Arms is what you get at 3rd. So what it basically does is whenever you take the attack action, you can forego your attack, and instead an ally within 5 feet of you can use their reaction to make a single weapon attack instead.
Yeah.
I originally had it as a single attack, so it would allow for spellcasters to use that as well, but ultimately from a balance perspective that could be problematic, because that would mean it opens the door of like, well, I can technically use a 1st level attack spell here, and that can just completely change the scope of battlefield very quickly.
I mean, something as simple as, hey, wizard, mind sliver that motherfucker. Mind sliver him. Come your turn. He's mind slivered. Throw some CC at him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not just that, but like the cleric who's right next to the bulwark can do a high level and inflict wounds.
Yeah.
Add advantage with some of the other abilities on that. So it can just be, all right, as an action, the guy next to me nukes him.
Yeah. I mean, this is great for if you have a ranger or a rogue on your party. This is actually fantastic.
Oh, that's one of the major balance points is the fact that rogues exist for this.
Yeah.
Because sneak attack does proc on a reaction, so that means you're getting sneak attack essentially twice per turn, as long as your bulwark is proccing Called Arms on you.
Yeah.
And you're
pretty
hitting,
good.
which, yeah. The first thought I had in regards to that is something like a Goliath Paladin or a Goliath Bulwark with a halfling rogue on their back who's using
good lord,
Goliath hide. Yeah. So it's like you get 2 attacks in, both have sneak attack, and you have basically pure defense standing right in front of you. So
yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty fucking good. That sounds awesome. Actually, I should use that. That'd be funny.
Oh yeah.
Actually, I think a lot of things people don't think about. It's the fact that like if you pick Lightfoot Halfling, you can hide behind your allies.
Oh yeah.
It's ridiculous.
And Goliath is also one of the more better classes for this because of Stone's Endurance is a reaction as well.
Exactly, yeah.
Which lets you reduce damage, so you have multiple sources to just tank everything.
Yeah.
And then
but yeah, that's awesome.
And also with Called Arms, you do get extra attack at 5th level, so you can normally attack it as you would. You don't really get too many benefits to it, but Called Arms does proc on it, so you can give 2 attacks to allies. It does still require reactions, but if you say have a rogue and a fighter right next to you, both of them can attack on your turn and just eliminate what's ever in front of you.
I mean, it's also like, okay, so let's say 5th level Gloomstalker Ranger next to you. You use Call to Arms. They get 2 attacks on their turn, on their reaction, right? They get to use their full attack action.
Well, the Dread Ambusher procs off of their action.
I mean, what I mean is, say for example, okay, so say I'm the Bulwark, I'm first in initiative, and the Gloomstalker is right behind me. So if I use Call to Arms, he gets to take 2 shots because he has extra attack, and then on his turn he gets to make his full turn, which involves his Dread Ambusher.
Yes.
So essentially, he gets to shoot 5 times in 1 round.
Well, it's still just a single weapon attack for their reaction, and you can only take 1 reaction per turn. So it's still just the single attack they get, so you would need 2 allies to get full benefit out of it, in that regard.
Right.
Yeah,
but you only you can give Call to Arms to 1 ally, though.
Correct. Well, no, you can give Call to Arms to multiple allies. It's just they can only make 1 attack with Call to Arms.
Right. Okay. So basically, the Gloomstalker Ranger won't get his extra attack then off that, right? Okay. Cool. So 4 attacks per turn. Whatever. As a Gloomstalker, you're still going to hit like a truck. So 4 attacks.
That's still an insane amount of damage. For first round of combat. So
yeah. Okay. Cool. That makes sense.
that's also just a main balancing point, because if you did allow players to get 2 attacks in on their reaction, that can
Yeah.
just swing a combat very quickly.
Yeah. But I mean, as DMs, you can just go, yeah, he has more health points. Get fucked. Whatever.
Yeah, but that's a
If
dangerous game to play, especially.
100%, 100%, 100%, without question.
But you get that. Third level is when you start getting your specialization features, which is the subclasses for this.
Yeah.
I went
So
with the
yeah.
I went with the monk breakdown for it as far as when you get those. Those could change later on depending on balance.
Hmm.
But essentially it's third level, sixth level, 11th, and 17th. You get a specialization feature.
Yeah.
Um, and there's 3 subclasses: Warlord, Tactician, and Warden, which
Yeah.
we can talk about in a minute.
Yeah. We'll
Uh,
we'll finish the base class first.
exactly.
Yeah.
After that, 4th level, you get your ability score improvements. And I mentioned earlier you get an extra one at 10th level versus everyone else. So it's 4th, 8th, 10th, 12th, 16th, 19th.
Yeah.
Standard rules apply with ability scores.
Of course. Yeah. And I
Extra
mean,
attack, as we mentioned
if you
also.
if you already have a high con, then just pump some feats in, man.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of really good Constitution feats out there already. Tough
Hmm.
being one of the more obvious ones
Yeah.
that has a lot of synergy. Durable works really well as well
Hmm.
for because short rests are extremely valuable for you with this class, and being
Yeah.
able to heal up even more on your short rest.
Hmm.
Uh, Super valuable for that. After that, it is as far as the main features is Ardent Reconstitution.
Which is
Basically
seventh
how
level.
that
Yeah.
works. Yes, at 7th level, you, as an action, roll one of your resolve die, and you can heal yourself for a number of hit points equal to the roll plus your con mod. Um, and you can use that a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. That comes back on a long rest, and that's basically just a way to lighten the load for your cleric or paladin or whoever is your kind of designated healer, quote
Yeah.
unquote.
I mean,
So
this is kind of like a second wind almost.
yeah, it's a upgraded second wind, but you get it at a later level.
Yeah.
And also, it is one that you can use more often, whereas second wind, I believe, is just a one time. Um,
Right.
Also, with it, when you make a Constitution saving throw, you can double your proficiency. So you effectively have double or expertise in Constitution saving throws.
So okay, how many effects involve Constitution saves?
As far as spells, there's a decent amount of them. Usually, it's going to be something like a poison effect or something like that that will trigger a Constitution saving throw.
Okay.
Um, But yeah, it's the idea to me is you're hardy enough with this class that you should be able to just kind of tank something like poison,
Right.
which is one of the later features you get.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
That might the double proficiency might move or might get removed at some point, or it
Hmm.
might move to a different ability. But I have it at 7th, I think, as a good balance point right now.
Okay. Actually, it's very hard to get expertise in Constitution saving throws.
As far as I
At
know, there isn't
most,
actually an ability that does it in 5th
exactly.
edition.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the best you can get is anything like actually getting expertise in
Yeah.
any saving throw.
Nope.
Right. So this is a whole brand new feature. So there we go. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially expertise. It's just applying to a saving throw instead of a skill. And for this class specifically, I think it makes sense.
100%. Yeah. I mean, and it's great. It's a cool way to use Constitution because like a lot of like unless you're what do you call it? Sorcerer barbarian. It's like you're not really
Yeah,
using con much. It's like yeah, it's a
yeah,
number. It's there.
yeah. If you're concentrating on a spell, that's about the only time you'll really use it, or
Yeah.
if you get hit by a specific type of spell or effect.
Hmm.
But otherwise, yeah, it doesn't come up too often.
Yeah. This class being Constitution heavy, you're like yeah, you know what? This makes sense.
Exactly. It's the main stat of the class, so it does need to be something that you are exceptionally good at.
Yeah. I mean like you can
Uh,
pick a Oath of Devotion Paladin as first level or say second level. Gain bless as a feature. Bless your allies. Concentrate on that. Then just go all the way into Bulwark, and you can maintain bless indefinitely. Almost.
Yeah, that's one of the bigger things with it is if you take any major buff or debuff spells that are concentration, it's pretty hard to lose concentration with this class, especially
Yeah,
if you get something like Warcaster,
exactly. Yeah.
uh, which is why for our game, which is Gestalt, if I do finish this, I don't know if it would be considered because it would be way too easy to bust it.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, so this Gestalt will be broken without question.
Yes.
Without fucking question.
Yeah, just from the pure defensive side and the amount of utility you get as well.
Yeah.
Speaking with next ability is mostly utility based, which is at 9th level you get Warcry. So that actually is essentially a buff or debuff, depending on how you want to use it.
Mhm.
As a bonus action, you can expend one of your resolve die, and you can target a number of creatures equal to your con mod. So a maximum of about 5, or later levels 6 or 7 if you have a very generous DM.
Yeah, ninth level,
Uh,
you have a D8. Oh,
yes,
so
it also goes up to
D8
a,
is your die. Yeah.
yeah, it goes up to a D8 for the resolve die itself as well.
Yeah.
Uh, but the Warcry, similar to the Taunt, it's one of the kind of main features, and each subclass modifies it slightly.
Mhm.
But essentially, what it does is each creature that you're targeting either gains advantage on their next attack, and they also gain temporary hit points equal to the die roll of the resolve die plus your
Mhm.
con mod.
Mhm.
Alternatively, if you're targeting an enemy, you can cause it to deal psychic damage to them equal to the amount rolled plus your con mod, and they will have disadvantage on their next attack roll. And since
That's
you can
pretty
target up
cool.
to,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
you can target up
this is
to 5
something.
people, so.
I mean, what was it? Zealous presence, I believe, with the Zealot Barbarian has, which gives people advantage on things.
Yeah, Barbarian has a very similar feature
Yeah.
with a lot of their subclasses, actually. They
Mm.
have essentially a similar Warcry with Frenzy Barbarian, Zealot Barbarian. I think Totem has one through the UA. I might be misremembering, though.
Okay.
But they have a similar AoE buff slash debuff,
Yeah.
depending on the subclass. And I
So,
decided just
so
that made
you
sense to just work into the class itself.
right. So this one you can either buff or debuff. You can't do both.
It, essentially, yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right.
So you have to
So I can
choose all
either
allies or
right.
all enemies.
Right. Fair enough. So depending on what matters, then you're like, okay, that's what we're gonna do. It's like, okay, everyone's getting fucked up. Here, have some temporary hit points. Makes sense.
Yeah, especially for if you get hit by a swarm of a bunch of enemies that have relatively low health, like say,
Mhm.
you stumble on a swarm of Sturges,
Yeah.
you can just do a Warcry. They take a D8 plus your con mod and damage, which will kill all of them immediately.
Yeah. 100% because they've got like what 2 HP.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just the visual of someone yelling at a mosquito and killing it, I think, is also great. So,
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah.
and like I said, that one, depending on your subclass, gets modified to have extra features. So I left it a little bare bones overall for that.
That's fine. That's fine.
After that, though, at 13th level, you get to ignore pain. As an action, you can expend one of your resolve die, and it reduces the next source of damage you take by an amount equal to the die roll, plus your level in the class specifically, which
So
at
at
that point is
13th
minimum
level,
13.
you have a D10. So D10 plus 13. Damn.
Yeah. So average of 18 damage, you just ignore.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And yeah,
On top of the
and
fact
at
that you
13th
can use your
level,
reaction to reduce even more.
yeah, and I mean the 13th level also you're up against some heavy hitters.
Yeah. Like at that point, you're taking a dragon breath weapon at that point usually is going to be dealing around 40 to 50 damage.
Yeah.
So reducing that by half, and then you can potentially use party frame to reduce it by even more to 0 on top of whatever temporary hit points you have.
Yeah.
So you can just take no damage from a dragon,
Which
I
is
think is
pretty
pretty
good.
great.
It's pretty good, yeah. That's pretty
Especially if
nuts,
you
actually.
have any sort of resistance on top of it. So
Oh yeah. Hell yeah, dude. No, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
it is still an action, which is the
Yeah.
main thing. Is so you're taking your entire turn just to defend yourself.
Yeah.
So that's
But I
one
mean,
thing to keep in mind in a battlefield.
no, of course, but at the same time, it's like this is exactly what you want to do.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like hit me.
It's
Like,
very
you
good.
just spit out some blood and like try again.
Yeah.
It's
Say
very
say you
that's
have an
cool role play.
enemy.
Yeah.
Say you have an enemy that's 60 feet away. You can use your movement to get 30 feet to them, taunt them as a bonus action, and then ignore whatever hit they take, and they'll most likely go after you because mathematically that's usually going to be the best case for them.
Yeah.
But after that, at 14th level, you get Invigorating Resolve. Basically, whenever you expend a use of your Resolve die, you can heal for an amount equal to the roll itself. It doesn't include your con mod on that one, so it would just be, at that level, it's a d10, so it would just be an average of 5 that you're getting back, and you can use that feature a number of times equal to your con mod.
Okay.
Which usually at that point is going to be at least 5,
At
usually.
least 5.
So average of 25 damage that you can just heal for free.
Yeah, pretty good. Save
You get
your cleric spell slots.
exactly, yeah. You just reduce the amount of stuff you actually need to expend because you can just tank it.
Yeah.
15th level, you get Hardy Preservation. You get immunity to poison and the poison condition because you just can at that point.
Yeah.
I think it's a one. Poison is probably the weakest overall damage type and one of the weakest types of conditions because it is resisted so much.
Yeah.
So I figured it's one of the easier ones just to give for free.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing also is like, say you pick, I don't know, like say you pick a UNT, they are inherently immune to poison.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
They
So
did change that with one of the new books, but
right.
if you want to use the old one, you still can.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But I mean, like, that's like it's a cherry on top, but the rest of it is what you want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
With that, also you do get another feature, which is when you fail a saving throw, you can use your reaction to expend a use your resolve die and reroll the saving throw, adding the die to the total. Which
so
is
at 15, you have still a D10, yeah.
Still
pretty
still
good.
a D10 at that point, but it's also still a reroll plus 5 on average, which usually is going to be a success.
100%.
And all it costs you is 1 of your resolve die.
Yeah, which is pretty good.
Exactly, which you have
because at 15, you have 15 resolve die, exactly, yeah.
And then in regards to that unyielding resolve at 18th level, when you roll initiative and had no resolve die remaining, you regain 4 back.
This is reminiscent of the sorcerer, right? Or was that level 20 for them?
Yeah, it's level 20 for monk and sorcerer that they get the equivalent ability.
Right.
I moved it up to 18th because I feel like it's a very underwhelming level 20 ability. I feel like
Fair
you
enough.
should reward players for getting that high of level.
Yeah, of course.
And also, with combat, in tier 4 especially, there's basically 2 types of combat, which is either a very long, protracted fight, like you're fighting a great worm, for instance. It has essentially a multi-phase boss battle, so you're going to be expending a lot of resources.
Yeah.
And the alternative is you just have a bunch of fights over an entire course of a day, so having at least 4 of them to rely on getting back without having to take a short rest is pretty valuable.
Yeah. I mean, like I want to reiterate everybody again. Tier 4 play is extremely rare. Extremely rare.
I think it's only like 1% of players ever even get to it.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, and most of the time it's always a homebrew campaign. It's never, there's no modules, as far as I'm concerned, other than Tomb of Annihilation that goes to 20, I think.
Yeah, and Tomb of Annihilation doesn't need to be run at level 20.
Yeah.
So.
Because you can fall into a trap and end up at level 1 at the start of the dungeon anyway. So,
exactly.
Tier 4 play, extremely rare.
Yes.
But again, capstone features, like as this comes along, it's better. Like again, like you said, regaining resolve die, just in the middle of a fight. Like, fuck. Okay, roll initiative. Okay, I've got some tools to use. Because at 80th level you have D12s, I believe. Yeah,
it goes up to D12 at 17th level, which is essentially that last tier of play. That's when casters get their 9th level spells, and the other marshals are getting the last bits of their stuff.
Yeah.
And then, speaking of which, the last ability you get is at 20th level. You gain resistance to all damage types, and a bonus to your AC equal to your Constitution modifier. Which again, so that's a +5 to +7 potentially that you're going to have on top of your normal AC. So you're looking at realistically like a 30 as a minimum.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
with that also, whenever you make a Constitution check or saving throw, you can double your Constitution modifier for that check or save. So, again, if you have +5, you now have +10.
Yeah. It's pretty good.
Yeah. Essentially, I hate the mechanics in 5th edition that are just you automatically succeed on the thing without having to roll. So I much prefer just you get an insane buff to this and you just roll really high now.
Yeah. It makes sense. Because, I mean, like,
Yeah.
otherwise, it's just like you immediately succeed. It's like, there's no fun in that. Where's the tension? Where's the
Exactly.
fun of it? So here you're just like, yo, roll. You might fail.
Yeah. Most likely you will not fail because you're adding 12 plus 10, so 22 minimum,
Yeah.
or 23 minimum,
Right.
but still possible.
100%. The dice might fuck you. You never know.
Exactly.
But yeah, so
but
I
those
mean,
are the
that's a pretty good capstone
main
actually.
features.
But then again, like, okay, for example, okay, so let's say I make a. Well, the reason I'm asking is because the initial part of Untarnished Aegis, right? So I build a bear totem, and I'm a Kalashtar. I by default level 3 have resistance to all incoming damage types as long as I'm raging.
Mhm.
Why?
Well, you're raging, yes.
Yeah, but then you're always going to be raging. Well, then again, rage will come back on a long rest. Fair enough.
Well, they have essentially unlimited rage at level 20, so you can just constantly be raging, but your rage can drop if you aren't attacking something or being attacked.
Right. No,
Whereas
I mean,
with
but what I
this,
mean,
you just always are resistant.
right? No, but what I mean is like say I take a dip, like a 3-level dip into Totem Barbarian, and then go the rest of the way Bulwark.
Mhm.
Untarnished seems like I mean, actually, yeah, technically, if you're at level 20, Untarnished just kind of outpaces Barbarian Rage. So never mind, forget it. Forget I said anything.
I was gonna say, even with the rage on there, you're still about even, and you
Yeah.
have the advantage also of it's always applied to you versus it's
Yeah.
only applied with rage. So I
Correct.
think it's
Yeah.
still a
This
little
is a
better than that.
It's a passive buff at all times. Fair enough. Yeah. Makes sense.
Exactly. Essentially, you just double your hit points,
Pretty good.
and on top of extra Constitution or extra buff to your Constitution checks and modifiers, which that also could change. I feel like that one is I like the general idea, but it might get moved up to something different. I might replace that
Fair enough.
at a later point. But that's the main abilities, and then it goes into the 3 separate subclasses which I have.
Yes, sir.
I designed each one around the ideas of basically offense, defense, and utility. Someone who'd want more of an offensive build, someone who'd want more of a utility build, and someone who'd want just to never take damage. Or never take meaningful damage. The first one being the Warlord, which is more the offensive style. Kind of the general idea I had for it would be kind of a blend of Barbarian Fighter with this.
Right.
So the first ability you get there is a fighting style. You don't have access to all of them. It's just defense, dueling, great weapon fighting, 2-weapon fighting, protection, and one of the new ones they added, Interception. So you can build it to where you are dealing some damage and it's not a complete waste for you to attack.
Right. Oh,
or
quick
you can
question.
use it to just make yourself tankier.
Okay, so in terms of fighting styles, are they limited per class? Like, for example, like say as a paladin, can I pick every single fighting style? Should I wish to? You can. I mean, as like for example, I get to choose any of the fighting styles. Like I'm not limited by anything. Like in this case, these are the limitations that this class has.
Well, you can't take a fighting style if you already have one, and also for paladin specifically, it's ones that are available to them in
Right.
PHB and Tasha's.
Okay.
Fighter is the only one that has access to every
Everything.
fighting style.
Okay.
With the exception of 2, which is Druidic Warrior, and the Paladin one that lets you take Cleric cantrips, which I forget the name of.
Yeah, but I think it's Holy Warrior.
That sounds right.
I think it's called Holy Warrior. But okay, fair enough. Okay, cool. Well, no, I mean, as some like we haven't spoken about Interception before, so for those of you curious, Interception, when a creature you can see hits a target other than you within 5 feet of you with an attack, you can use your reaction to reduce that damage the target takes by 1d10 plus your proficiency bonus. So you can potentially reduce 7 points of damage to somebody.
Yes. Essentially, it works the same as Protection, which is the same, except that gives somebody disadvantage on the attack roll.
Yeah.
So it's a way of it's already hit, or you know it's going to hit, so you want to just stop that altogether.
Yeah.
Versus putting disadvantage on it, which you have a few other abilities that provide disadvantage. So protection might not be as valuable, whereas interception also can be. And again, both are reactions, so it's that element of being tactically minded and trying to figure out which one is the best for you in the moment.
Yeah, because I think most people will go for defense, honestly, because that +1 to AC is always valuable since you're constantly going to be the target for most enemies.
Absolutely, yeah. That's mathematically that is probably the best one to take because it's a guarantee value, whereas the rest it's going to be you having to juggle resources.
Yeah.
But I left the option open there again, so people can be a little more versatile in their play with it.
Yeah, because I mean, like you said, this class is extremely reaction heavy. So
Yes.
while interception and protection might be a good idea, defense might be your best option. But again, if you're picking the warlord, I mean, only the warlord gets fighting styles, so it's up to you how you want to play your character. So keep that in
Yeah.
mind as well.
Yeah, especially if you do something like a dip in barbarian or fighter to get some extra offense, taking great weapon fighting or 2-weapon fighting, for instance, can be super valuable.
Yeah.
Or even just dueling for the extra damage.
Yeah.
One of the other abilities the other ability you get at 3rd level, I decided to do 2 3rd level abilities for the classes.
Yeah.
And with Warlord specifically, the other one you get modifies the taunt ability, which is Fearful Presence. So when you use your taunt ability as a bonus action, the target of it has to make a wisdom saving throw against your resolve DC. And on a failure, the target is frightened of you until the end of your next turn as well. So not only can they not attack anyone that's not you with disadvantage, they can't attack you without being a disadvantage, and they can't move towards you.
Yeah. So if they're like
So
far away from you, then they can't do jack.
yeah, so say you're 30 feet away from any bonus action, taunt them, they fail, you can just move up a little bit, and they can't move anywhere towards anyone behind you.
Yeah. It's good. Again, crowd control. It's fantastic. Like we mentioned before, fear is an extremely powerful crowd control spell ability.
Absolutely.
Condition. Sorry.
That's one that I am definitely considering potentially changing because of how powerful it could be. Because any creature that is frightened of you, if the rest of your party is directly behind you in that moment,
Yeah.
they just can't do anything except to you, and they can't do anything to you but attack you at disadvantage. So you can really shut down a lot of combats pretty easily.
I mean, one thing you could say that the taunt no longer makes them have disadvantage, but they're just scared of you. But then again, like I would say, this would be good as a area effect as opposed to just single target.
Well, the
Like,
issue there also, it is ultimately kind of still niche because frightened condition is one of the more common conditions that creatures are immune to with first edition of monsters.
True.
It's similar to poison in that regard of
Yeah.
ultimately it doesn't affect too much,
Mm.
but at least it's from the player's perspective. Because
Yeah.
that's one of the issues also I've run into with our game and Lucille is she has an inherent frightened condition or has multiple conditions that can apply frightened, but there's a lot of monsters that naturally she would be going up against that are immune to it.
Yeah. It's sketch. But but when it works, it's amazing.
Exactly, yeah. I want to. That's in my general opinion. I think that's how most abilities should work. Is it's good in a very specific situation, or it's very good in a general situation. And I try and kind of mix and match with the overall class itself.
I mean, this will come down to playtesting, of course, because that will tell you exactly how this would work. If it's too powerful, or if it's just it's good. It's good when it happens. So that's an option for you.
But that's a 3rd level ability you get. The other one you get at 6th level is Hit It Like You Mean It, which is a old WoW reference. Dots. Which at 6th level, when you use your Call to Arms feature, which is giving an ally an extra attack, and your ally hits the target, you can expend a resolve die, and your ally can add that to the damage roll.
Yeah.
So it functions similar to Smite, where say your ally gets the crit, resolve die on top of that, and they get an additional 2d6 at that level.
Yeah.
Or 2d8, 2d10, 2d12 later on.
Yeah. Pretty good.
Yeah. And it's just requires that they hit. It doesn't require anything else on you, so it's just a good way. especially since this is the more offensive-minded one.
Mhm.
Doing that with, say, a paladin or a rogue or a barbarian, where they're
Mhm.
already getting a lot of extra damage to their crit, can just
Up
wipe
it
the
even
floor with
more.
just about anything.
Yeah,
Exactly, yeah.
pretty good.
After that is the 11th level for Warlord, which is the modification to their Warcry, which
Mhm.
is Marauding Bloodlust. Essentially, whenever you target an ally with that, they can add the number rolled on the resolve die to their next attack roll.
Mhm.
Should actually change the language on that because they just have it as attack. And if you target an enemy, they must subtract the number roll from their next attack roll or saving throw they make. So essentially, it's a Bane,
Yes.
effectively, if it's on an enemy, and it is a Bless on an ally.
Yeah, I mean it's actually an effective bane.
Yes.
Because I mean that's one thing I've realized over time playing. Like for example, like even in Storm King's Thunder, because some of those giants have like a +9 to hit. What is a -4 to a +9? Nothing.
Exactly.
So it's like, at least this way with a resolve die, because at 11th level your resolve die is a D8.
Uh,
So potentially you can make them completely miss. Which is
exactly.
pretty good.
And it can apply to up to 5 targets. So
Yeah,
you can
that's
just
huge.
make an entire round of combat can just be, alright, the entire group misses you all because of that one feature.
Hmm.
Uh, which is also why I initially had Warcry as just an ability you had as an
Hmm.
action, but
Right.
it was a little too strong, so I made it a bonus action
Hmm.
and changed it to a number of times equal to your con mod for that reason.
Yeah, makes sense. Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah,
Just walk up and go, raw. My allies are like, "Ooh," or my enemies are like, "Oh shit." Makes sense.
exactly.
100%. Cool.
And then also their last ability for the Warlord class is at 17th level. Any creature within 30 feet of you, including yourself, can add your resolve die to an attack roll once per turn without expending a use of it. And as a reaction, you can expend a resolve die and add it to the damage of an attack as well. So essentially, you always get an additional d12 to all of your attacks, and
Should
any ally within 30 feet of you also does.
right. So you can add yeah. So if they hit, they get to add a d12.
Yes.
So this also applies
And
to
you,
spells as well.
uh, I have it as attack roll right now. I might change it to weapon attacks, but it's 17th level, so I'm kind of fine with it being attack rolls and spells,
Right.
because at that point, balance is already kind of thrown out the window. So,
Fair. Fair.
and again, as a reaction, being able to add a 2d12 to all of your attacks, pretty valuable if you
Pretty
want to
valuable.
actually build more towards a tanky DPS class with this.
Mm. Fair. Yeah, makes sense. It's like this is almost like the paladin from Diablo 2. You're
Exactly.
tanky
Yeah.
as fuck, but you do a lot of damage. Right. Fair enough.
I'm just imagining, take 2 levels in fighter at that point.
Hmm.
So you have action surge.
Yeah.
You can call to arms one turn, action attack yourself with 2 attacks since you have extra attack still,
Mhm.
and both of those attacks or one of those attacks you can add 2d12 on. So
Yeah.
it's that situation of you get a lot of potential utility and a lot of stuff you can do in your turn.
Nice. Okay.
Uh, After Warlord, the next class I had is Tactician, which from the name you can gather is the more utility-based one, the more battlefield commander archetype. Um, with that, you first get 2 proficiencies extra, either history, insight, intimidation, investigation, perception, or persuasion.
Hmm.
And when you make an ability check with those specific ones, you gain double proficiency.
So expertise
Uh,
in two skills, basically.
yeah.
Pretty
Essentially,
good.
it's the same ability as Knowledge Cleric. I just changed the actual skills you get.
Hmm.
Um, Mainly because I thought that was a good baseline of this is more of like you are a military general kind of archetype or someone
Mm.
who is just understands how combat works enough and you also have expertise in certain things,
Right.
uh,
So I mean,
mainly just there
you are
for flavor.
often you're often picking up let's say perception for sure, because perception is a powerful ability.
Yeah,
And
perception, investigation,
yeah.
a lot of intelligence builds can work really well with this.
Hmm.
Just from a role plays perspective, I might roll in some features that work off intelligence later on for the tactician as well,
Yeah.
just because I think that makes sense.
Actually, yeah, tactician
Uh,
is a good reason to pick up intelligence. as your second primary.
Exactly, yeah.
Like just
'Cause you
have
can
enough
just be
strength,
the
like
guy.
have enough strength minimum to wear your armor, and then put everything else into whatever else you need. Fair enough.
Exactly. And you can also do some builds that are, light or medium armor. You focus on just being a back line,
Hmm.
not necessarily as much of a
True.
tank, but more of just, commanding everything, and you can be kind of an off tank even.
Yeah.
Um, and the main idea I had with it, as far as the overall design for the Tactician class, was similar to that of Hunter Ranger or Totem Barbarian, where each level you're getting one of three abilities, and you choose each one.
Okay.
Um, Specifically, Battlefield Control is the third level ability you get, so you can choose between increasing the range of your call to arms to 30 feet, which is huge.
Massive.
Uh, you can also modify your taunt so that when you taunt a creature, the next attack against that target has advantage, which
That could
is like
be taunt is a bonus action. Right? I remember.
it's a bonus action.
Right. So technically, you could get advantage on it, or your next ally could get advantage on it. Pretty good. It's
Exactly.
it's like distracting strike from the battle master.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's about equivalent to that, and
Mhm.
again, if you have a rogue, that's super valuable
Huge.
because
Yeah.
yeah, because that
Pretty good.
automatically gives them advantage on the next attack, or you can give them the ability to take a reaction attack
Hmm.
with called arms. So,
Yeah. So
and
wait,
then
so
the
yeah,
third
so
one
exactly, guys. Remember, like, you don't get all of these. You got to pick one of those three.
yes, and
So decide what makes sense the most for you.
exactly. I was considering also adding in that you can change which one you've taken whenever you get another subclass feature. So
Okay.
at 6th level, you'd be able to change out your 3rd level, and then at 11th level, so on and so forth.
Ah, cool. Neat.
Last one you get at 3rd level, though, is you can use your action to allow a willing creature to move up to half the movement speed without provoking opportunity attacks.
Which is pretty
Uh,
good. Get your casters out of a fight, or get your DPS into the fight. Hell
exactly.
yeah.
Movement is one of the most important and valuable things in a combat scenario.
Hmm.
Uh, this one's a bit difficult. It's a bit tricky depending on the player. I would say to any DMs who end up having players who want to use this, make sure they are not going to be trying to think of a polite way to say it, but dicks about how other people play the game, because
Yeah. Yeah.
that's an inherent flaw of the class, is it's going to attract those type of people who are like, no, you need to do this because I said so. It's like, nah. Which is why I put specifically a willing
Willing
creature.
creature. Yeah, you can't just be like, yo, you move. Yeah, of course. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
move
Yeah.
15 feet over here. But I was gonna do a thing. No, you're not. Yeah.
Whatever you're doing, it's
So
wrong.
yeah, your fun is wrong.
But no, I mean, again, that's a valuable thing to say, of course, 100%. Because I've seen those people. It's like, yo, do this, and say, like, no, I want to do something else. No, do this.
Yeah, I
It's like
have been that person a few times, and I've
fair,
regretted
same,
immediately.
yeah,
So I want to make
same,
sure that no one is encouraging that.
yeah. No, 'cause it happens also sometimes. You're like, dude, just use this. It's like, yeah, I know, but wait, I mean, it also comes down to, again, we've discussed this before several times. Players never read their sheet.
Yeah,
So there are moments where you want to just grab a player and slap them and go, read this one feature here which could circumvent this entire fucking problem.
oh, 100%.
Yeah, you
That
have this
is,
one feature which makes this whole thing easy. What the fuck?
I mean, that's my general design philosophy. Also, is, and I mentioned this to Ethan in regards to the last dungeon you guys went through, is most of my dungeons, or pretty much all my dungeons, I will design essentially an easy mode for you guys. It's just a question of whether or not you find it and put it together to look for the easy mode. Like, for
Ah,
instance, in the last hold, or in the Hold of the Deep King, I put an Ancient Dragon as an ally and a level 20 Sorcerer as an ally for you guys.
yeah.
So,
That was pretty nuts.
yeah.
And even then we had
But,
a hard time.
yeah,
I mean,
that
reasons
was,
unspecified, of course.
yeah, we don't need to get into that,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but in regards to the next ability, Artisan of Battle at 6th level, you choose 3 abilities as well. So whenever a friendly creature you can see makes a saving throw within 10 feet of you, I might change that to 5, but I have it as 10 right now.
Mm-hmm.
They can use their reaction and roll a resolve die and add it to the saving throw.
Why
So
would you
you can
reduce that
just
though?
mainly for flavor and partially for mechanics. I think the idea is that they would be close enough to you that you can actually do something to assist them in the saving throw. And if they're 10 feet away, they're going to be out of your reach technically.
Right, but
So,
I mean, okay. The reason why I'm asking of that is also because I'm just looking at my players that I've had to deal with thus far.
mhm,
The tank often goes up on his own while they all hang back. So, which is why I'm wondering why would you change that? Because again, I know you're looking from a literally tactics perspective,
yeah,
but often you never have that happen. Okay, if you look at Atlas, for example, Atlas will run up into the middle of the fray while we're all just within range to fire off our spells or whatever it is. So I feel 10 feet makes sense for the general player base. So I
that's
wouldn't
true.
change that, honestly.
Yeah, I was debating. Honestly, I could see even extending it out to 30 feet potentially, to where it'd still be valuable. Because ultimately, at that level, it's still, I think, a D6.
Yeah, it's a D6.
Yeah, so that's an average of 3 to the roll, which sometimes is going to save you, but sometimes not.
Yeah,
So I could see
exactly, yeah.
that, but it's also a situation of this is one of 3 abilities that you choose, so you have to make each of those abilities a little less powerful
Fair,
to balance out the choice option.
fair.
Um,
Otherwise, yeah, like if it's 30 feet, why would I choose anything else?
exactly, that's the
Right.
problem that Bear Totem ultimately runs into is
Yeah.
everyone wants to take Bear because
Why
you
wouldn't
double
you?
your
Yeah.
HP effectively.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Uh, the other abilities in regards to that, you get opportunity attacks against you have disadvantage, which is pretty valuable for your ability to reposition, because
Yeah.
positioning for you is extremely important as a tank.
Yeah.
Um, and then last ability is you gain the ability to use the help action as a bonus action,
Which is very
which,
valuable.
oh, especially considering you have, what is it, helpful word.
Yeah.
So that applies to that. So that
Yeah.
means not only can you give an ally the help action as bonus action if they're within 5 feet of you,
Mhm.
they get to add your resolve die to their attack or skill check associated with it.
Right.
And you
I
can
mean,
also use
can
Call to
you?
Arms then as an action, and they can.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So wait, question. So the help action has to be within 5 feet of each other.
Yes. The only exception is, from what I can remember, is Mastermind Rogue. They can
Mm.
do it from 30 feet away, and it's a bonus action for them.
Right.
So, which also is a really good multi-class with this. Rogue in
Yeah.
general is, but
Actually, yeah.
that
Mastermind with
especially.
Tactician will be nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So 30 feet away, give your ally a bonus action, then Call to Arms, so they have advantage on their attack, uh, on their reaction attack, and they can add a D6 to a D12 to it.
Yeah.
So
Pretty
pretty
good.
much guaranteed hit.
Yeah. Pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty good.
Uh,
Okay.
at 6th level, it goes to 11th. You get the reposition ability. I gave 2 abilities for 11th level just because I thought this was a cool one, but it didn't
Okay.
really fit in anywhere else.
Fair.
Um, which is whenever you use your Warcry, each target can use its reaction to move up to its movement speed in a direction of their choice. Again, their choice, not your choice.
Of course.
Uh, Alternatively, each target's movement speed is reduced by half. So you can
So they
just
can. Okay,
blow
okay,
entire.
so they can move any direction they want. They can run backwards if they want as well. Okay, pretty cool.
Exactly. Say, you're getting chased by a bunch of dragons or an army or something.
Uh,
You just yell out your war cry to all your allies, and they get an additional 30 feet of movement.
which is pretty valuable, especially if you're running.
Oh, especially, yeah. Whether
Yeah,
you're
so it's
running towards or away from something, just being
yeah.
able to have everybody move quickly.
So each target. So what's the range of reposition though? So Warcry has a range of 30 feet.
I believe so. Oh, I didn't
Warcry
actually put a
range on
distance
that.
on Warcry.
Yeah.
I think I put it as you can see.
Each creature.
Oh, no, I didn't put a
Oh,
limit on it.
yeah.
Yeah, it'll probably just be within vision, essentially.
Okay, so whoever you can see, right? Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I think that's the most fair. I might put a range limit on it just for balance sake, but as of
Yeah,
now, that would just be it.
Yeah, I mean, mainly because, like, if you like say you're a drow in the Underdark, it's dark. You have 120 feet of dark vision. You can see someone 120 feet away, essentially, like one of your allies. And be like, "Yo,
Exactly.
run, motherfucker!" So they get to move like if they action dash plus another 30. That's like 90 feet of movement in one turn potentially.
Or if you have a monk potentially in your party, all of a sudden they're just on the other side of the world.
Yeah. I'm a race car. Hell yeah.
I am speed.
Yes.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean,
so that
that was pretty cool. And alternatively, is also like you fuckers don't get to move as fast, which is again super valuable.
Yeah, if you're getting chased by anything that can outpace your party or is about to say, close in on your wizard, then you can just slow it down enough that they might be able to get away.
Yeah, I mean, again, like this is no saving throw, which is actually valuable. Because you put a saving throw on it, it might become a little too crunchy. But it's just like, your speed is halved. Fuck you, and just keep running. Makes sense. I mean, and at 11th level, that's good. Because at that point, you're just like, dude, come on, man, come on. Do I have to roll saving throw, really?
Well, I would say if you, I could see a saving throw being associated with it towards enemies, but the effect would have to be stronger. Probably
exactly.
Instead of reducing their movement by half, it would be reduced to 0 or something equivalent.
Right. Maybe you could empower it with the die.
Well, because it already rolls a die, and that's actually part of the issue I initially had with it, is because the Warcry is basically supposed to be the modification, or each subclass is supposed to get a modification to the Warcry.
Right. So, but the Warcry, you roll 1 die, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's say you roll 2 die, and they have to make a save, and if they fail, they have to stop running, potentially.
Potentially, the issue would be because the die should be associated with some number attached to it, which currently is just the psychic damage.
Right.
Yeah, so it'd be better probably. I might workshop that a little bit still, but it might be reduce their movement by halves plus the number rolled. But that's always a little awkward when it's like an odd number.
Yeah, it's a little jank.
Yeah, so that one will probably get reworked in some way at some point.
Sure. But I mean, no, I mean it's worthwhile talking about that though, without question.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then also at 11th level you get Rallying Mark. Again, 3 choices. This one's actually pretty straightforward. So you gain proficiency in either intelligence saving throws, wisdom saving throws, or charisma saving throws, depending on your choice. Yeah. And each one you can add a resolve die to the associated saving throw you make. And if you succeed on it, you regain that resolve die.
Yeah. Again,
so you want to make
super. Sorry. Go on.
Yeah. And say if you want to make your character more intelligence based and they're more tactically minded, or you want them to be more of a leader, you can have them gain that extra proficiency, and ultimately it doesn't cost you too much. It's just a way of making sure you don't fail a specific save.
And also, I think it's like since you are allowing people to change up whenever they reach these levels, like they at 3rd level, at 6th level, you get to change up your 3rd level ability if you want, and vice versa, or whatever it is. It's always good to know like what you're getting yourself. Like what kind of enemies are you facing? Are they going to be using intelligence-based spells? Are they going to be using wisdom-based spells or charisma-based spells? Could be valuable. The last thing you want to be is get banished, which involves a charisma saving throw. And banishment is an extremely powerful ability.
Yeah, or if you're going up against mind flayers or something equivalent, knowing that you have that extra kind of ace in the hole that you aren't going to get dominated or equivalent. So
yeah. It's valuable. So again, this comes down to player understanding the campaign that they're in.
Yeah, and also just generally, how do you want to build this character? Are they more intelligent? Are they more charismatic? Are they more wise and perceptive?
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, this is almost like Resilient.
Yes, it's pretty much. It's not the exact same thing, obviously.
Of course
but
not. Yeah,
it
of course not.
Very similar.
Yeah, it's similar to the fact that you can gain extra proficiency in the saving throws, which are always valuable.
Exactly, yeah. Especially because you could take Resilient on top of this, so you could easily get proficiency in all 3.
Yep. It's pretty good. I mean, one thing I've realized is that something like for example, a monk, they're actually quite feat heavy. Like
Yeah.
you want to be an effective monk. You want to get your hands on some feats, most definitely, to be
They're
effective.
the most utility-based martial class in
Yeah,
official rules as of now, and that makes the most sense for them that they would need the most feats as well.
yeah,
And ultimately, they should also probably get an extra one similar to monks or similar to fighters and rogues.
yeah. They
But
should, right? I feel that they should because like, I've looked at some of the base abilities of the monk. I'm like, I don't care about this. You can't age anymore. Good for you. I'd
well,
rather
it's not even
have
that you
extra
can't
like
age anymore. It's just you don't suffer the effects of aging, so it's just
yeah.
mostly flavor.
Yeah, which is sad because I'd rather give someone else here's another extra attack for you.
Yeah.
Or your flurry of blows gives you an extra hit. Or something, you know?
Yeah, there's some
Do
inherent
some
issues, especially with the later level abilities for monk.
yeah, I feel like they fall off so quickly, which is so unfortunate.
And it's the general rule from all the marshals in 5th edition is that they all fall off in tier 3 and tier 4 in a lot of ways.
But I mean,
Um,
but then
monk is just the worst about it.
yeah, I mean, say paladin fighter or barbarian. At later levels, they're still chonky in terms of what they can do. Amongst like, I'm just gonna stun this guy. Cool.
Yeah,
Again,
your
stunning is valuable.
turns and
Stun is super valuable.
yeah,
But
yeah, mechanically it's very valuable.
yeah.
From a actual play standpoint. It does leave you kind of wanting
Yeah,
because you're
I
just kind
want
of
to do
doing the same
more.
thing over and over again.
Yeah, I want to do more than that. And plus, you're burning through key like fucking candy.
That's the other thing too. They don't have a mechanic to recover key effectively, which
Yeah.
can be fixed with items and feats and
Yeah,
just
but again, it's that's what I'm saying. They're super feat dependent or item dependent, as opposed to your class
exactly,
giving
yeah,
you enough to sustain yourself in a way that's fun. You know. But I mean,
exactly,
whatever. We talk about it later. That's fine.
yeah.
But that's 11th level
Last
traveling mark. Yeah.
yep, last level for Tactician is 17th level. 3 features is first one when you drop to 0 hit points and are not killed outright, meaning that your hit point total is not doubled
Yeah.
effectively.
Yeah.
You can make a Constitution saving throw, and if the total is higher than the damage taken, you drop to 1 hit point instead, which works exceptionally well with Supreme Commander,
Mm.
since you also gain uh, double Constitution to your saving throws, on top
Yeah.
of having double proficiency.
Mm-hmm.
So you already realistically can't fail, because
Yeah.
that's plus 22 or plus 23 as a minimum. And then also put Death Ward on the Bulwark, so that triggers
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just becomes a situation of you are impossible to realistically kill outside of something like banishment or plane shift.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense.
Uh,
I mean, like you
yeah,
want like you are the guy. I'm like I'm up front. Fucking take me. You can't kill me.
yeah.
Let's go.
This is very much if you want to build more of the tactician towards the defensive, upfront fighter style.
Yeah.
Um, the other features you have are you're immune to the frightened condition, which again, super valuable for
Mm-hmm.
late game because it's Dungeons and Dragons. You're going
Yeah.
to probably be fighting a good amount of dragons, which
And for
all
those
have
you
fearful
unaware,
presence.
yeah, exactly. Fearful presence. They have a passive effect, which if you don't save against, you're terrified of them. You can't get closer to them, and if you attack them, you attack with disadvantage. So it's
Exactly.
always like frightened. That's the thing. Like players, you players tend to underestimate the effectiveness of fear for themselves, like how they can use it. But most, like none of the classes, apart from I think this one, gets immunity to the frightened condition, as far as I'm
Uh,
aware. Maybe others
if I
do.
remember right, Undead Warlock does
Right.
later on, but
Yeah.
yeah, otherwise it's pretty rare to actually just get full-on immunity to it.
Yeah.
Usually it's just advantage against saves against it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Uh,
Here you're just like you can't scare me, motherfucker. Whatever.
yeah. Which also you do get an additional ability with that is that you can use your reaction to end the frightened condition on a friendly creature.
Super
So,
valuable.
yeah, say you're the halfling rogue that's traveling on your back is afraid of the dragon, all of a sudden he's not anymore.
Mm.
And then the last feature you get for Imperative Order is you can grant an ally within 10 feet of you a bonus to their armor class equal to your Constitution modifier. That one I have as just a passive ability currently, but that'll probably become an active effect that you have to use, probably like an bonus action, I would think.
Yeah, that might be more because otherwise, if it's just constant, like I just put +5 to this paladin at all times.
Exactly, yeah. But it's again also 17th level, so the game is already
true.
busted. So.
True, but at the same time, I'm like, let's not break it further.
Exactly.
Yeah, fair enough. But okay, yeah, that makes sense. But no, like out of all of them so far, I'm a big fan of Tactician.
It's
'Cause this-
definitely the most versatile of the three subclasses,
Hmm.
and just lets you kind of. I very much like the idea of if you've ever played GURPS or a similar type of RPG where you build your character kind of just from the ground up and just pick and choose abilities. I like
Yeah.
that style, and I think this works pretty well within the system that 5th edition is to kind of mimic that without actually implementing it, because you can't really implement it fully in
Yeah.
5th edition.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, this is pretty good. I mean, like we keep saying, battlefield control is such a powerful ability. If you can just change the tide of something right at the gate, you could just end a combat encounter in no time. It's pretty good. And the multi-class, the multi-class options are ridiculous as well. Never Gestalt though. Never Gestalt. Never Gestalt.
Yeah, Gestalt would be, unless you're just completely throwing balance out the window, that would not work.
Mm-hmm.
Because it basically works with every other class and is really good with every other class. Like there's no bad option there.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. Ooh. And moving on to the final one.
Last subclass we have here is the Warden, which is the pure defense class, as I like to think of it. So this one at 3rd level, whenever you, or when a creature you can see targets you with an attack, you can expend 1 resolve die and use your reaction to gain a bonus to your AC equal to the die roll for that attack. It does only apply for that one attack, though. So if they have multi-attack, it won't apply for any other attacks.
Right. Okay, so it doesn't maintain. Okay, just for one attack. Okay.
Yeah, otherwise it'd basically just be an upgraded shield spell that you get for relatively little cost.
I mean, as a feat, pick up Magic Initiate and just get shield.
Yeah, that's also why Wizard would also be just a ridiculous combo for this.
Yeah, 100%.
And I do clarify on that, you must use this ability before the attack roll, and if the attack hits, you do not expend the resolve die.
That's actually very good. That's actually very good.
Yeah, that was the main feature of it, because it would feel really shitty if you use that and you still get hit. Yeah. So, especially early levels where you only have 3 of those.
Right. I mean, also like the other thing, like for example, shield. You can see the roll and then decide if you're going to shield or not. But in this case, you have to use it before you see the attack. It's like, exactly. Will this hit me? Can I afford to get hit? Fuck it, shield up. And then if it misses, you're like, okay, great. I don't lose my resource. I'm good. And especially at 3rd level, you have what, 3 of these?
Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially, getting it back
when it hits.
Yeah.
Which is a good way also of just kind of mitigating the feeling of, this is the class where I'm not supposed to get hit and I got hit, so I feel bad, but at least I didn't lose this resolve die.
Yeah. That's good.
And then the other 3rd level ability you get is Standing Sentry, which is the taunt modification. So whenever you use your taunt, you can gain a bonus to your AC equal to your proficiency bonus. Or excuse me, I read that wrong. So when you use your taunt ability, you do gain a bonus to your armor class equal to your proficiency bonus from the target of your taunt until the end of your next turn. So you gain early levels +2 to your AC, effectively just from that one target, or the attacks from that one target. So Shield Specialist and Standing Sentry obviously have a good amount of synergy there, since you're just focusing on one dude, effectively.
Yeah.
But the other feature you get with Standing Sentry is that you can target a number of creatures with your taunt equal to your proficiency bonus.
Which is
so you can target 2 guys.
Yeah, so you 2 guys, you can up your AC against both of them by 2.
Exactly.
Pretty good.
Yeah, again, it's the pure defense class, so it's just everyone come hit me.
Yeah.
Then 6th level, you get Unbreaking Reflexes. You gain the ability to, when you make a Strength or Dexterity saving throw, you can add your Constitution modifier to the total on top of your Strength and Dex, on top of Proficiency with Strength if you have it, and Dex if you have it. Which you get Strength automatically. So.
Yeah.
And then in addition, when wielding a shield, a friendly creature directly behind you has full cover, which that's kind of a shaky one if I were to ever like put this out because not everyone really uses the cover system in 5th edition.
I mean, okay. I'm just thinking it from a visual perspective. Like, see, I'm a dwarf, and I've got an elf right behind me. How are they getting full cover? You know what I mean?
Because I'm that chunky.
I'm that wide.
Yeah.
It's still weird because like elves are like what 5-6 feet tall, dwarves are like 4. You have to like literally duck behind them to get cover. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I named it Unbreaking Reflexes for that reason, so you can flavor it as, oh, I put my hand up and stop the arrow,
Right.
or
Or I jump in the way, like, no, Mr. President, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, it's the idea that you should not only be defensive enough that you can protect yourself from damage, you should be able to protect those around you, and
Fair.
giving effectively +5 AC to an ally who is directly behind you is really valuable. It's also one that you can, as a DM, you can easily circumvent from just having enemies go around.
Exactly.
So it's
yeah.
not too powerful.
Of course. But then, I mean,
And
you
also
got
just
you
the
got Silent
idea of
Sentry.
being a giant wall.
Of course, yeah, but you got Silent Sentry as well, so they have disadvantage. Like, they're not attacking you, and your AC is higher, so they have full cover. They're going to be attacking. They have disadvantage of attacking the guy behind you anyway, so they're going to focus on you regardless.
Exactly. Most of the time,
break the
they'll
wall,
naturally
then,
target you.
Yeah.
Fair. And there are ways to still obviously cheat that a bit. They still have access to things like the shove attack or grapple, so they can potentially move you in a way that isn't proccing for an attack.
Fair.
But yeah, again, all those abilities are designed to synergize as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then 11th level, when you target an ally with your Warcry, they gain a bonus to their armor class equal to the resolve die roll until the end of your next turn. So for essentially an entire round of combat, all your allies have a AC boost of, on average at that level, is 4, I believe. It's a D8.
It's 11th level is a D8. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
and
pretty
it
good.
goes up to average of 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, for an entire round, you've just boosted everybody in your party, and again, you get an equal number of war cries as your Constitution modifier that come back on a long rest. So you should pretty much be able to apply that at least once per combat.
Yeah, which is pretty good.
And
maybe a +5 AC
like
at
the
all
first
times.
round of combat. That's why also I might probably have some sort of limitation as far as the range on the Warcry, because if your party is super spread out, being able to just give everybody a huge AC boost or one of the other Warcry effects.
Yeah.
But again,
I mean, I guess the idea would be, I mean, if you pick Warden, your Warcry range reduces, but they all gain this armor class boost if they're within range of you. Like
that
say,
could work.
Yeah, so like say Warcry has a 30 feet range, it's reduced to 10 feet, but everyone within 10 feet of you, or your allies, gain a +5 AC, which is still super valuable.
It would be from a design perspective, you'd run into an issue of players like, oh, my Warcry is 30 feet. Oh wait, my Warcry is actually 10 feet because I am a Warden. Shit.
I mean, no, but then it comes down to the player to know exactly what they're doing.
That's true, but you always want to be intuitive for the players so they don't have to second guess themselves.
Right. But I mean, you're 11th level. At this point, you know how your sheet... Well, hopefully you know how your sheet works.
I was going to say, I've played with enough people to know that's not true.
I mean, I'm saying, because, like, see, at the end of the day, you can't, like, handhold them too much. They have to take some agency of their own, right?
True.
So it's like, if you start at level 1 and you're level 11 now, if you don't know your sheet, get the fuck out of my game, bro. What the fuck?
I mean, I've seen people who've been playing for years, multiple years in high-level play, still forget, like, basic stuff before, so...
Yeah. I mean, it's...
Like, if you've watched Critical Role, they're on, like, I think 7 years now that they play, and they still forget how the game works.
Yeah, no, it annoys me as well. I'm like, just spend an hour before your game and just go through your sheet, man.
Yeah.
It's steady. 10 minutes. Just read. How difficult is that?
Yeah. You do gain another feature when you're targeting enemies with it, though, which is their armor class is lowered by an amount equal to the defense die until the end of next turn. So you can also make it a lot easier to hit the enemies, which is going to make it a lot easier to kill them faster.
Right. Oh, okay. So yeah, this one is yeah. So the range reduction in this case may not be that great.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I was going to say that.
That
Would cause some problems as well.
Okay, so a balancing option could be, so at 11th level your die is a D10, I believe.
11th,
D8,
and then goes
D8.
Yeah,
right.
goes up to D10 next level.
Right. So you roll your D8. That also increases the, so say the range is 30. Let's assume the range is 30. Whatever the dice roll is, it's also that many creatures.
Oh, so Oh, you mean it's just a buff then?
No. Essentially, like, so say I roll the D8. I roll a 5.
Mm-hmm.
So I can either give 5 allies an increase to AC, or 5 enemies a reduction to AC. Mm-hmm. Within 30 feet.
Well, it already works off your con mod as far as the number of targets that you have on it.
Right. Wait,
so it would be more. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It might be because ultimately you're not always going to have 5 enemies necessarily in front of you.
True.
So it could be a situation where you'll just never end up using that, especially depending on the type of combat that your DM runs. So
I mean, reducing at 11th level, you're facing pretty high AC creatures, so reducing even just 1 is still valuable.
That's true. It's a strong enough ability, I think, especially because I'm probably going to include the 30-foot range, possibly 60 feet for it, if that's not too powerful, but 30 seems like the right number.
Yeah.
But being able to, and it's also just until the end of your next turn.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's essentially just 1 round of combat. You use your Warcry, and anyone in that area is essentially taken aback enough that it gives all your allies an opening to get some shots in.
Right.
Which can, from bounded accuracy, first round of combat, you do that, and that easily swings the combat in your favor, and will probably just win you an entire fight each time.
Right.
Which is fair enough. Powerful.
Yeah.
But it could also be one that I include a save attached to it, because ultimately that is a pretty powerful ability.
Yeah, it probably does require a save.
Yeah.
I guess a wisdom saving throw? Yeah, wisdom saving throw, yeah.
Makes wisdom is usually the default just because perception.
Yeah, and also the fact that you're hearing and you're seeing this person being absolutely angry or whatever. And it's just like, oh god. Yeah, actually, yeah. So if it's a debuff, there should be wisdom saving throw to it.
In general, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, so there's a balancing act. Either give them the +5 AC, or you want to reduce the enemy, they gotta make a wisdom saving throw, and then they fail or succeed, they're good, or they get reduced. Makes sense for a balancing act situation.
Which I'll probably include that with the Marauding Bloodlust as well for Warlord, since they essentially have a similar ability, which is more or less just a buffed up Bane for a turn. So
right.
And then the last feature that the Warden has is Unwavering Guardian. So at 17th level, when an ally within 5 feet of you is attacked, you can use your reaction to take the damage instead. And as part of that reaction, you can use your Hardy Frame ability, which lets you reduce the damage.
So you get to make 2 reactions in 1 turn, yeah?
Yeah, essentially, it's not making 2 reactions, it's just you have 1.
Right, yeah. One procs the other.
1 buff to Hardy Frame.
Yeah. Which is super valuable.
Oh, yeah. I always like the idea that your later game abilities should either have a direct relation to, or should have a major synergy with your early game abilities.
Of course,
and you're just building off of those.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one thing I noticed. Like, a lot of your features which you put on are augments to your basic features, which is really, really cool.
Exactly.
Because I think it's super valuable.
Instead of just throwing like 50 different mechanics at somebody,
right?
So, like, here's this basic mechanic, and now you get to modify it, and now you get to add this to it.
Yeah. No, again, it's super valuable because again, it gives, like you mentioned, this is one of those classes that allows you to mix and match and just build however you want, depending on which subclass you choose, of course. But still, there's a lot of options for you here, and they're all very, very good. I mean, some of them might be like saying, guys, remember, This hasn't been play tested yet. This has just been looked at, and it's an idea that Steve's been kicking around. But
Yeah, this is
looking at it,
a little over 2 weeks old. So
yeah. So again, I mean, like Steve mentioned, he's going to add a couple of things here and there, make some changes here and there. But otherwise, this is amazing. You finally have a pure tank battlefield controller as a martial class up front and personal, which is lacking in the game.
very much so. I would
Yeah.
say, yeah.
Because I mean, like again, like we mentioned at the beginning of the thing, like your tank runs up front, cool. They're just gonna run around your tank and get to the back line. Then your tank's up front fighting God knows what, while you were getting bear down by a bunch of, I don't know, maybe the ads or some tiny mobs or something, but their numbers are massive. So it's kind of feels bad. Like in all MMOs, there is a way to, like MMOs or any RPGs, the tank is the one who just, you will fight me, you fight me, I will take all the damage, while there's a cost from the back healing the guy, buffing him, or he's debuffing enemies, whatever it is. So this is actually a very good play style to have as an option. Not everybody will be into this, of course. Some people I just want to hit shit hard. But
Yeah,
I'd play this shit. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I was gonna say, especially with our group, the only person I could really see playing it regularly would probably be you or Morgan, and Morgan would go more of the Warden or Warlord style, whereas I imagine you'd go more with the Tactician.
Yeah, Tactician or Warden would be my play. But no, Tactician sounds amazing. Tactician could be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And as far as the actual, from roleplay perspective, it's very much the blank slate of fighter, where you can kind of just build anything you want here as far as a character.
Yeah.
You're not pigeonholed to any one thing as far as roleplay, which I like and dislike in 5th edition how much that is the case with a lot of classes, like Warlock and Paladin, for instance. Everyone just assumes so much of what you have to be a Paladin and a Warlock.
Yeah.
But
I mean, but again,
flavor.
like remember, yeah, flavor exactly. Remember, guys, roleplay. You're not stuck. You can be a fucking asshole of a paladin if you want.
Yeah, you can be a chaotic evil or neutral paladin if you wanted to, or chaotic good.
Yeah, you can be a extremely charming and nice person as a warlock.
Yeah,
100%.
You didn't necessarily sell your soul. You just made a deal with some powerful being.
Mm-hmm. But you know, I'm digging this class, dude. Just like again, like I read it myself, of course, but now just going through it with you, I'm just like, okay, I get a better understanding of the idea of this class. Like, I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, pure tank. But then you look at how each subclass like augments abilities, and it just becomes like, oh shit, okay. So if I use this, I get this, and so on and so forth. So it leaves a lot to mess around with and play with, which is great. It allows you to plan your progression right out the gate. Where, for example, like you pick a sorcerer or something, you pick your meta magics. You're always going to pick up quick and spell, of course. But then it's the given thing. But why would you want to? Like, if you want to do something else, why not? You know, this gives you options to do stuff like that.
It's the thing of you always want to avoid having one clear optimal option, I think, because even if you're not someone who is going to min-max, you're still going to kind of feel a little bad of like, man, I really wish I would have picked that super overpowered ability instead of this cool one for flavor.
Yeah.
Whereas this, I wanted to try and make sure there isn't anything that stands out as like, this is obviously the best choice for this.
Yeah, which is what barbarians suffer from.
In a lot of ways, yeah.
Yeah.
Really, almost every class suffers from it a little bit in Physician. And that's partially just how they design some stuff. But
I mean, it comes out like, why would you pick anything but Twilight?
Yeah, like why would Moon Druid is the same way.
Yeah. Although I will say Circle of Stars does have a good argument.
I really like Circle of Stars, and I'd love to make a Circle of Stars Druid.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, but I also want to be a bear as a bonus action.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think that's the problem, right? It's like, why would you pick any ranger subclass but the Gloomstalker? Why would you pick any monk subclass but the Shadow? Actually, Way of Mercy is pretty good.
Monk is interesting in that regard, actually, because ultimately, because everyone does kind of shit on the class, you can kind of pick whatever because ultimately it comes down to flavor, and you're most of the time just going to be using Stunning Strike anyways.
Yeah, I mean, but then if you're playing Shadow, you're Batman. You're literally Batman. Way of
Yeah.
Shadow is literally Batman. But I mean, like you mentioned, every class has a clear winner. Clerics have Twilight, Barbarians have Totem Barbarian, Monks have Shadow, Fighters have Battle Master, Paladins have Vengeance. Okay, okay.
There's pretty
I
much
mean, I'm gonna be clear. Mechanically speaking, flavor-wise,
yes,
could be everything. But mechanically speaking, these are the best classes, the best subclasses within the various classes.
and Hexblade if you want to make a Yish.
Yes, Hexblade, or you go Fiend Warlock.
Yeah.
Actually, Genie is pretty good.
It is, but if you're doing the I'm a spell sword style play, then it's hard not to at least consider Hexblade,
Well,
just
you know, yeah,
pretty much just
Hexblade
for the
is
one ability,
yeah,
which is using charisma to attack. But
yeah, which is huge. Because most time people like I can change my weapon on a whim. Okay, I have a longbow now. I have a heavy crossbow now. I have a glaive now. I have a great sword now. It's like pretty good, pretty fucking good. So
and
you
that's
know,
why
so yeah, so this one there's no clear winner. It's more like what do you want to play, which
I'm
is
also
good.
considering at some point adding probably specific items and feats for it if I get a full, or if I finalize the actual class itself.
Yeah, we should run this sometime.
So
Actually, we should try making one of these.
I was making an NPC in Fantasy Grounds for it. I haven't
Mm.
fully translated everything over yet
All
since
right,
nothing's done, but
of course.
I'm planning on introducing an NPC that will use those stats at some point just so I can playtest it out.
Yeah, fair enough. That'd be cool. Hell yeah. Anything
For
else you
the
want to go over?
those are the main abilities I have so far. As far as races that would work also with this, as we mentioned, Hill Dwarf is obviously probably the best just by
100%.
default since you
Yeah.
get extra health on top of it. Um, Dragonborn
Goliath.
has a lot of really Goliath is another
Goliath's also
one.
good. Yeah, Dragonborn's good.
Yeah, especially because of the racial feats they have in Xanathars, that kind of pushes Dragonborn especially.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
with frightful. What's it called again? Dragonhide and something else. I don't remember.
yeah, Dragonhide and Draconic Fear, I want to say
I
something
believe
like
it's
that.
called. Yeah, can't remember exactly, but yeah, one of those.
Yeah, but anything that lets you control the battlefield from your race. Oh, Tabaxi are insane because one
Oh
of the
yeah,
biggest limitations for this is movement because
yeah,
I don't have any natural boost to your movement speed outside of Tactician has some stuff,
yeah,
but otherwise you have just whatever your base movement is, and positioning is incredibly important for you. So,
yeah. Actually, I
which is
haven't
why
seen a Tabaxi in a long time.
yeah, I mean, people kind of overestimate how valuable that is in most combats, and that's partially just how most people run combat in general is usually just the, rocket tag where you're just
Yeah,
dealing damage back and forth and
yeah,
there's
yeah,
not
yeah,
too much tactics being played out by it.
yeah.
Uh,
So,
but
so I would say this is a thinking man's class.
very much so. I designed it for somebody who wants to think about the battle and pay attention to the entire scope of the battlefield itself.
Yeah, which is a good thing that people need to learn as well. Because even with whatever
It,
classes you have, most people tend to forget what the fuck's happening on a fight, as opposed to not paying
yeah,
attention. So
exactly, yeah.
it's good. No, I mean, like I'm saying, I would like anybody. I would recommend anyone play this at least once. Like once Steve finalizes everything, and he does a couple of play tests, then we can potentially bring this into our games. Like I don't mind. Like once this is complete, I don't mind giving this an option to my player characters. Like guys, you want to try this? Let's go. Or I just
Yeah.
bring an NPC who's one of these things and see how it goes.
Yeah, I would probably any potential DMs out there who want to try this out, I would definitely play test an NPC beforehand
Yeah.
before actually offering it to your players because it'll either be the situation of it's way too powerful and it just ruins all your combats and they become too easy,
Hmm.
or you have to specifically start building around one player, which is never fun for anyone.
Yeah. So yeah, so like I said, like I know I've got the entire sheet that Steve's made so far up on stream for you guys to look at. But again, remember this is still in his third draft. it's not fully completed yet. So once it's done, Steve, are you okay with me sharing this with people once it's completed?
Yeah, I was gonna make a thing on GM Binder for it potentially, and just upload it there, and then I'll share it with you guys.
No, amazing, great. There we go. So once it's ready, you'll have access to it. Play it, see how it feels in your games. See how you like playing, how your players like playing it. And again, you're more than welcome to throw, what do you call it, suggestions, ideas.
Yeah,
We're still
critique.
Yeah, we're still working on it. Like already, we worked out a few things that could be changed up here and there. If there are more changes to be made, then we'll make it. I say we. Steve will make it.
I will say also, if anyone is interested in that style of character, of the more tactically minded, there is a Warlord homebrew out there by, what's this guy's name? Kibler or Kibbles Tasty.
Okay.
It's the best one I've found so far. It doesn't really super fulfill the role that Warlord did in 4th edition, because that was mostly based off auras, essentially, similar to Paladins, and they've essentially cannibalized all those abilities into Battlemaster, Rogue, and Paladin, respectively, so it doesn't work super well, but it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, if you don't want to be a pure tank, you just want to be the guy in the back who's like, stab that guy, and then move over here. That would be probably a better option, at least as of right now.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there you go, guys. This is the Bulwark. A good name. It's a good name for exactly what it is. You are a bulwark against the dangers of what's happening. So it makes sense. Hell yeah. I think that's everything we want to discuss, right?
Yeah, on my end.
All right. So, okay, now I have to ask, when do you think this will be ready? Vague timeline.
Within the year, I'll say.
Within the year?
Maybe.
Okay, cool.
If I decide to actually finish it, because I've got a list of other things that I also have started and never finished. So
right, but I mean, this seems to be like, I mean, I don't know what the other ones are, but this one seems to be the most complete.
Yeah, honestly, it's mostly just going to be balance tweaks for the most part, and a few features might change as far as placement and overall ability, but for the most part, everything is probably going to look like this.
Yeah, so here's an option for you guys. Another D12 hit die class, your pure tank, some really fun abilities which could be extremely useful. Not can be, they are extremely useful and mess around with. Three subclasses which augment the base class extremely well. As far as I'm reading, it looks really, really good. It's just a matter of, once we playtest it, see how it feels, take it from there. But otherwise, I think that's pretty much everything we want to discuss on this thing. So, goddamn. That is the Bulwark. I'm digging this, dude. I'm digging it. I really like it.
Yeah, I think it's coming along. I'll, like I said, still have to playtest, but once I figure out what is broken and fix it, I think it'll be a fun class.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I wouldn't recommend this to everybody. Like, guys, think of your playstyle. Yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely for somebody who is okay not actually rolling dice all that often, because 9 out of 10 times you're going to be doing Call to Arms as an action and then Taunt as a bonus action.
Yeah. Most likely that's what you're going to be doing. Yeah.
That's your bread and butter effects, essentially, is make the guy who can deal a lot more damage than me attack, and then make sure the other guy doesn't attack him.
Yeah. No, it's great. I mean, like you mentioned, like, you're always going to max your con because your saves are based off your constitution. So then it's up to you to put wherever you want. Like, you want at least a minimum strength score to wear heavy armor. So if you want to wear plate mail, you need a minimum of 16 strength. But then you can put points into other things as well. Or even if you pick up mithril armor, reduces the need for high strength at all.
There are some ways to also build it towards more of like a dex build.
Yeah.
You don't get the saving throw proficiency unless you take, well, actually you do kind of with one of the abilities, but that's actually, especially with the Tactician, that is a completely valid way to play it, is someone who's kind of not necessarily right up in the fray, but near, say, the casters, and just providing buffs to them and just providing different buffs around the battlefield.
Yeah, while your frontliners are up front dealing with them, in the back you're protecting your peeps around you.
Exactly.
So, it's good. So, mess around. But you always want to max your con, regardless. That'll be your priority one. Because having a high con is good.
You don't have any other abilities that work off any other stats as of yet. With the Tactician, that might change to where it works off Intelligence, but as of right now, I don't have any specific abilities that would do that. So,
would you allow saving throws to be chosen? Like Constitution is a given. You can choose either Strength or Dex as your saving throw proficiency, depending on if you decide to go away.
Decide to go with a Strength or a Dex build. I was considering it. There's not a good way to implement that in 5th edition that feels right, outside of just putting Strength or Dex, but that also, no other class does that, so it feels weird.
I know, yeah, no, which is why I was wondering if that was the thing, yeah, but no one else does that, so fair enough.
Yeah, and also, like you said, 9 out of 10 builds for this are going to use heavy armor anyways, so giving the Strength saving throw automatically feels right.
Fair. Fair.
And you get to add your con mod to your Dex saving throws anyways. So.
Exactly, yeah. So you're more or less you're okay. You're doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I think that's everything. So thank you guys all so much for watching. I will be posting this up on YouTube for anyone who wants to look it over and look over the abilities and all. As I said, we went as Steve was discussing the abilities, I've been scrolling through the sheet he sent me. So you guys can read it at your leisure as well. If you have ideas, whatever it is, drop me. You can. Steve unfortunately doesn't use any socials, but for me, at a House of Grim, you can message me there on Instagram. You can come to my Twitch channel and also give me ideas for the class as well. Throw any ideas at me and I'll pass them on to Steve and he can implement them or just go, "You're dumb, shut the fuck up." Whichever works. So,
I'll probably do both.
You're dumb, but I'm going to use that though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A terrible idea. I accept it.
I mean, again, the idea is we want to give anyone who chooses, I say we, Steve wants to give anyone who chooses this class a chance to have a good time and play the way that they would really like to play. If this is your chosen play style, this is what you want to be, fuck yes, do it. Please. I would love to see this being used in the game because I'm looking at some of the stuff that happened and looking at some of the games I am in. I'm like, this class would help out this campaign so much because people are idiots. They don't think.
Especially for more of a veteran player who's playing with some newer people, this would be a great class for you just to kind of help introduce them to the game. Which, if you do that, try not to be a dick about it, but that would be a good role for you to fill is just, I'll take all the damage, and here's some helpful advice.
Yeah.
That comes in the form of a mechanic.
Yeah. I mean, it's because most people whenever people join a game, I'm like, what do you want to play? They're like, I'm like, okay, let me simplify. You want to be DPS? You want to be a spellcaster? You want to be a tank? You want to be support? What? Pick your choice of archetype, and then we can go from there. Do you want to sling spells, or do you want to debuff people? Do you want to support your allies? It's one of those things. It comes down to that. What's your play style? Most gamers have non-gamers have difficulty playing D&D because you're like, I don't know what this means.
Yeah, especially for newer players, there is a very big learning curve, especially if they don't play a lot of tactics games or any sort of RPG or anything similar.
Yeah.
And really, a lot of these abilities, I did design it with newer players in mind, with a lot of it, because while there is the potential for tactical play, you can also just be an upfront tank and just say, okay, you attack, and I'll distract this guy.
Yeah.
And that's my turn.
Yeah. So, I mean, okay, you will be the unsung hero of the group, I'll say, with this class.
Very much so. Yeah, it is. You are the offensive lineman that's allowing the running back to score.
Exactly, yeah. Pretty good. I like this. But yeah, I think that's everything we want to discuss for today. Thank you guys all so much for watching. As usual, the artwork you see before is brought to by our lovely artist friend Priscilla Dillon. Hit her up on Instagram at PrissyDilly for any artwork that you might want to have for anything, graphic design, character art, whatever the fuck you want. She will do it. Of course, pay her accordingly. And that's pretty much it. So thank you again, Steve, for introducing us to this. should be fun to play with.
Boy.
And we'll catch you guys all hopefully next week, where we'll finish up our spell list, because we just hit 8th and 9th level spells. We're going through those, so that'll be fun. So thank you all so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time. So from all of us here to you guys, till then, roll for initiative, and we'll see you then, guys. Peace out.